I would argue that as a result of escalating cost of housing, social fabric began to break in a lot of places. And instead of the wonderful economic engine that we have, particularly in the Bay Area, causing prosperity and rising California dream like it used to be, communities were beginning to fight over housing and over costs of all kinds of things. When we ask parents, do you think your kids will be able to live in the community where they grew up in, 81% of people say no. The causes are very clear, we're just not building enough. If you look at, this is the number of housing permits in California since 1955. We used to issue on average, call it 175,000 between 1955 and 1990, about here. And in the last 30 years, we've issued on average maybe 100,000. And so we've halved the number of housing permits that we issued every year. And then we are all surprised that there isn't enough homes and people can't afford to live here. That understates the seriousness of the situation, because this doesn't adjust for population. And so we've halved the production, but there used to be 20 million people living here in the 80s, and now there's 40 million. And so actually, if you look at it on a per capita basis, new houses permitted per 1,000 residents, we used to permit about 14, and now we permit about 2.5. If you look at all of Solano County, it's very clear that this is by far the least ecologically important part of the region. It's not prime farmland, it's not highly ecologically sensitive habitat. We purchased 60,000 acres. The community would be on a less than half of that acreage. It would be surrounded by a green belt of agriculture and open space, very much in the tradition of Solano County of communities not merging into each other. There isn't enough good paying employment nearby. I mean, we just heard from someone a couple of days ago who lives in Dixon and commutes every day to Pleasanton, and that's no way to live. And we think there's a real opportunity with a project that's sufficiently big to rebalance the Bay Area, if you want, and bring some of those jobs into Solano County that can shorten commutes and improve a lot of things. People ask, what jobs can you bring? First part is we want to bring jobs that build on the existing strengths of the county and that people who live here right now can get, either already or if we help provide training for those jobs. We would actually be much further away from Travis than any of the existing communities. If you look at Suisun got built all the way to about a mile of the base. Here, less than a mile, it's about 0.8 of a mile. On the west side, the One Lake new development is about 0.8 of a mile away from Travis. We would be 4 or 5, maybe even more miles away from Travis. Secondly, there's actually an opportunity for this to strengthen Travis. Many of the people who worked on the base or who understand the base, some of the challenges that we understand the base is dealing with is retention of workforce, retention of the airmen. Cost of living is a real problem. Quality of life is a real issue. So in summary, we think this is one way to master plan that portion of the county in a way that allows us to really plan a great community instead of having a hodgepodge of sprawl and piecewise development, and importantly, guarantee all of these community benefits that wouldn't be possible in a piecewise development. It's also what would give us the opportunity to bring in larger employers. Larger employers will only come if they have a visibility that this is a place where they can keep growing for the next 20 or 30 years, and it really justifies the risk of taking a chance on a new office location or manufacturing location. We'll bring a proposal in January 24, at the second half of the month. That will be a full ballot initiative. It's on the order of 50 pages. It's going to have the location of the community, it's going to have densities, it's going to have the zoning, it's going to have information about water and transportation, it's going to have design standards. When we say that it's going to be walkable, it's going to have commitments like every home has to be within 3 out of the following 5 things: a school, a grocery store, a park, a transit stop, commitments like that.
See that the group's listening to the community.
For the gentleman who was wondering where there are anybody willing to stand up and say that they're open-minded and willing to listen, well, you found one.
You need to hear from everybody, as many people as you can, from as many walks of life as you can possibly hear from, in order to have the best possible product in the end.
And so we hope that you will help us design it and improve the project. I'm confident that in January, when the plans come forward, people will look at them and say, they really listened. I think that there's a lot in here that we can get behind.